Welcome to a Parallel Project Training APM Project Fundamentals Qualification podcast based on the APM Body of Knowledge 7th edition. You should be using this in conjunction with our e-learning, podcasts and potentially a tutor-led course. For more information, please visit www.parallelprojecttraining.com.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Parallel Project Training podcast based on the Body of Knowledge 7th edition. My name's John Bolton, and I've got with me Jan Underdown today. Hello, Jan.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay, cool. This particular podcast is all about communications and the Project Fundamentals qualification. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing the Project Management qualification, you can listen to this one, but this one is specific to the Project Fundamentals or PFQ. So we're going to be looking at the assessment criteria, particularly for the PFQ, which is all about the definition of communications. We're going to be looking at the advantages and disadvantages of different communication methods. And we're going to be particularly looking at the contents and the benefits of a communication plan. So if that's what you want to listen to, then here we go. So over to you, Jan, really. Can you, what's communicate? I suppose podcasts are a form of communication, aren't they?
They are, yes. And we're doing a lot more of these, and also how we actually deliver some of our learning, like through webinars, which I do quite a few of those. But communication basically is a definition is when the perceived meaning, the actual message you're sending to someone, is to actually receive it and actually understand what you mean by the communication. And sometimes we can actually have lots of problems with this. Now, lots of projects, in an earlier podcast, they would have talked to you about stakeholders. And sometimes we talk about lack of communication of why projects fail. So we really have to consider about how we're going to communicate within the project, who we'll be communicating to, what is the purpose of our communication, and how we're going to actually approach it. And these days we had lots of challenges because most of us are sometimes working virtual teams. We set up a whole host of different problems. The richest form of communication obviously is the face-to-face, because we can actually see how people are actually reacting to the message in terms of their body language, in terms we can actually look at the tone, we can actually see how they're reacting in terms of visual, where we actually are engaging with them. But we often don't have that kind of, where you just have a person on the end of a webinar or on the end of a Skype call that you can't often see if they're actually understanding. They may be masking their particular body language. And also we work in multicultural environments, which also can set up, different challenges, shall we say, positive and negative, in terms of how we communicate.
Okay. So communications be all about, I was always taught it was about you code something, you transmit it, you receive it, you decode it, and lots of things can go wrong in the process. So
yes, these barriers.
We're coding stuff by speaking in English.
Yes. And we're thinking about what we're going to say. We're thinking about the formal words.
If you don't understand English, then just the use of the language will be a barrier to you.
Well, even
I'm always in awe of people that speak English when I can't speak a word of German.
Well, it's even in English. How many times we worked in an organisation, they say, well, we were doing an ABC with an X, Y, Z and a 1, 2, 3. I have no idea what they're talking about.
So acronyms can get in the way.
Absolutely.
So that's just a form of codification, in fact.
It is.
Yeah. So stuff can go wrong in the transmission as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, like when your laptop's not working.
Oh, gosh, yeah. So the IT
or you
doesn't
can't
work.
get a phone signal.
Yeah, or your Wi-Fi drops.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with virtual teams, isn't it? So,
yes, it is. It is.
Okay, so sorry, I'll distract you a little bit there. We're talking about some different types of communication. I think you were talking about face-to-face.
Yes, which is the richest
like
form.
Interviews.
Yeah, they're really quite cool because you can actually have the opportunity to answer questions. You can actually have emails in terms of how we communicate as well. And it's interesting where emails sit. Are they formal written or informal written? These days you could be very canny because especially if you're Freedom of Information Act, they will actually go through all the emails that you actually have on the project.
Well, they might do.
Formal written, your business cases, reports, things like that, or contracts. You can actually have informal written. I'd put the post-it notes in this particular area because be careful. Even like your journals, your notebooks can be termed as formal written. So be careful what you write down, especially if you, as I said before, in terms of that.
I always thought that like informal is unplanned.
Yes.
Whereas formal is planned. Informal, you're not sure. Not sure if you want a response or what that response might be. Whereas formal is you're expecting a response.
Yes.
So, like informal is chat around the water cooler.
Yes, I see that. But if you decide something or give somebody an instruction, then it's good to follow up with an email or some sort of formal.
Stuff can become formal.
Yes.
Even though you didn't intend it to, and that's the kind of point you're making, I think, is to make sure that people are aware of that and just be, you don't on your guard all the time, but you do need to be aware that sometimes.
Yes. Because you often need the kind of audit trail as well, because sometimes when things are challenged, maybe further down the line, who authorised that, or when did we actually agree that? Then you can actually then go back to a formal written, like an email or
so generally
or something
we've got
like
face to face, we've got physical, like things like newsletters and emails and stuff like that.
Yes.
And then what about sort of virtual communications? Is there anything?
Yes, you've got the, especially when they're putting up information about their projects on intranet servers, aspect of that. You can actually have different styles of communication, whether it be passive or active as well. It's often what we call the push-pull sort of situations as well. If you're not careful, like the podcast we're doing today is very much a push. We don't expect a response from somebody. But if we're doing a Skype call or webinar, then we actually expect a two-way communication, people to actually kind of respond. One of the things we do have is the non-verbals, is the body language of how people, a lot of percentage of our communication is how people react, their posture, how they look, the stance. Are they leaning forward, are they leaning back, how they actually are responding to this. Mm-hmm. So it's very important. So what we have to do within the challenges of it, because a lot of organisations we work with are global as well. So if you're actually organising a communications plan, you've got to think about the timing of this. It's like the webinars we do, we actually are staging about 8:30 in the morning, which actually then gets different parts of people around the globe there.
Yeah. So we're talking now about the communication plan.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So who owns that?
A project manager will own the plan.
Okay. In a true manner of project management, everything gets planned before it gets done.
Yes.
So we write down who we're going to talk to. That would be your stakeholder community. Mm-hmm. So that links in with the stakeholder
absolutely,
analysis
it's hand in hand.
Earlier. What you're going to tell them, when you're going to tell them it, how you're going to tell them it, and what you expect to happen.
That's right. What sort of feedback?
Yes, that's right. So what feedback am I expecting? So communications, communication is only effective if you get positive feedback, which is why most organisations do things like surveys and stuff.
Yes,
A lot of projects do that as well. I've been on projects where I've done customer satisfaction surveys.
Yes.
As to how well the project's been performing. So, and that sometimes you don't always get the answer you expect.
No.
Because whilst you think you've been doing a great job, somebody somewhere doesn't.
Yes.
And it's that's why you write a plan, because you want to try and not constrain that, but organise it so you can be ready for it and respond to it, because communication generally costs quite a lot of money.
It does, but the thing is we've got to really watch is that don't think everybody is online, that everybody's on email respond. We actually work with a council at the moment. They'll actually go out and talk to the community leaders to get their message out. It's like people think, well, we can download the information from the web. No, they can't, especially the older generation who don't have access to IT systems or have that kind of capability. Yeah. So communication, not one size fits all. You really have to think, as you said, John, about the stakeholder you're communicating with.
Yeah. So really, what are the benefits then so we've got a communication plan. We know what's in it, more or less. And you talked about formal and informal. We talked about types and modes and various advantages and disadvantages of each of those. What's the overall benefit of producing a communication plan? And why would it, if I was the customer and I was paying for it, why? And you're the project manager, explain to me why I need one.
Well, a communication plan, as I said before, actually supports the stakeholder engagement. We can actually have projects where the output is straightforward to do, but it's all about the communication, trying to get buy-in from the stakeholders, get that positive buy-in, try to get their understanding around that. It's managing the communications very, very carefully, that we get the right messages out and that we can actually monitor the responses coming back in. Now, sometimes within that group of how we communicate can be the success or failure of our project.
Good. We've looked at defining communications. We talked about a definition, about that's how information is sent and received. We talked about the advantage of different communication methods, like face-to-face, formal and informal and so on. We talked about the contents of a plan, and we talked about the benefits of a plan.
Absolutely.
Sounds like we finished.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast and found it informative. To find out about our training courses, e-learning or tutor-led course, please go to www.parallelprojecttraining.com.